world. People meeting her for the first time often were startled by how unjustly the camera treated her. Photographs had not prepared them for her warmth and dignity and poise. An unusually tall woman, she moved with the grace of an athlete, and when she walked into a room, the air seemed charged with her vibrancy. "No one seeing her could fail to be moved," said her friend Martha Gellhorn. "She gave off light. I cannot explain it better." For 30 years, from the time she entered the White House until her death in 1962, Eleanor Roosevelt was the most famous and at times the most influential woman in the world. And yet those who knew her best were most impressed by her simplicity, by her total lack of self-importance. "About the only value the story of my life may have," she wrote, "is to show that one can, even without any particular gifts, overcome obstacles that seem insurmountable if one is willing to face the fact that they must be overcome. That in spite of timidity and fear, in spite of a lack of special talents, one can find a way to live widely and fully." Chapter 2. Poor Little Rich Girl. Looking back, it strikes me that my childhood and my early youth were one long battle against fear. Eleanor Roosevelt stood in the doorway, her finger in her mouth, too timid to enter the room. Her mother was sitting in an armchair by the fireplace, sipping tea and chatting with a friend. At long last her mother glanced up and saw Eleanor standing there. "Come in, Granny," she sighed. Turning to her guest, Mrs. Roosevelt confided, "She is such a funny child, so old-fashioned that we always call her Granny." Eleanor wanted to sink through the floor in shame. 40 years later, she could still see the look in her mother's eyes and hear the tone of her voice as she said, "Come in, Granny." "She often called me that," Eleanor recalled, "for I was a solemn child, without beauty and painfully shy." Eleanor knew that she was plain at best, a blue-eyed, rather ugly little girl who bit her fingernails and seldom smiled. Her mother, Anna, was one of the most beautiful women I have ever seen. Growing up, Eleanor felt that she must have been a disappointment to Anna. "My mother was troubled by my lack of beauty," she wrote in her autobiography. "I knew it as a child senses these things. She tried hard to bring me up well so that my manners would compensate for my looks, but her efforts only made me more keenly conscious of my shortcomings." Her father, Elliot, was a handsome man about town, a dashing sportsman who had hunted tigers and elephants in India. Eleanor adored her father. One of her earliest memories was of being allowed to dress up and dance for him and his friends. They laughed and applauded as she whirled and pirouetted before them in the dining room. Then her father would sweep her up and hold her high in the air and kiss her. "With my father I was perfectly happy," she wrote. "He was the center of my world, and all around him loved him." Eleanor's parents were socialites, at home in the drawing rooms and ballrooms of New York's high society. Anna Hall had been a glamorous debutante, admired for her stunning beauty and grace. Elliot belonged to the exclusive Meadowbrook Country Club. His life revolved around polo, fox hunting, and horse shows. When he was courting Anna, he gave her a spectacular tiger claw necklace he had brought back from India. He had shot the tiger himself. Their marriage in 1883 had united two old and prominent families. The first Roosevelts had arrived in the New World during the 1640s, when New Amsterdam, later to be called New York, was a tiny Dutch settlement at the foot of Manhattan Island. Anna's ancestors had signed the Declaration of Independence and administered the oath of office to President George Washington. Their first child, Anna Eleanor Roosevelt, was born under a full moon on October 11, 1884.